I'll never work for a chiropractor again, and neither should you. Hello, and welcome back, everybody. You got Panda Raf and Mr. Tango here, bringing you some massage education. Thank you for joining us today. Of course, today we're talking about why I will never work for a chiropractor again, and neither should you. So I should start off this video by saying that I actually like chiropractic care. I have been a big fan of it for years. I've definitely received benefit from it. I know it's one of those practices that's questioned a lot. And for a lot of people, it's very, very scary looking, right? Especially when they're adjusting the neck, right? We've all seen way too many action movies, right? But there have been legitimate injuries that have come about because of chiropractic care. And oftentimes when we see an injury, it can kind of ruin the rest of the practice for us. But I'm here to say that I've worked with some great chiropractors. I have worked for some absolutely terrible chiropractors. So when people go off on rants about how chiropractic care isn't good, I normally like to take this piece of understanding with it. They've probably worked with the people that I think are absolutely terrible. It's these chiropractors that are ruining it for everybody else, right? It's these guys right here. Because I've met a lot of incredibly sound and educated people that are very thorough, that listen to you, that are going to specifically work on what you are asking about, and then provide support for it as well. You know you're not dealing with a good chiropractor when they're giving you the absolute bare minimum while trying to charge you as much as possible. And it's really not you, it's your insurance, right? We'll get into this, but there are chiropractors out there that ask their employees, their massage therapists, the people working under them, to add as many codes as possible to the patient's order so we can charge the insurance for that later on. There are very specific rules that go about this, and there are chiropractors that, like to bend these rules a little bit. So I understand when people get really upset when chiropractic care is brought up. I totally understand it. I'm also here to say that although this video is going to focus on some of the negative aspects that I've encountered with chiropractic care, and really more so chiropractors, not chiropractic care. Let me go ahead and correct that. Although we're going to focus on a lot of negatives, I do want to say that there are amazing chiropractors out there that have helped me out so much. I'm telling you, after a training session, whether it's any type of martial arts. I remember though when I was dabbling in some Krav Maga, they're really big on the elbow strikes, right? Of course, Muay Thai as well. And when I practice that kind of stuff, it's like my shoulders were made for 8-year-olds. I always needed to get them adjusted when I was getting when I was in that conditioning phase, right? So for me, I've had a good experience with chiropractic care. Let's get into these terrible chiropractors and just what the heck is going on. So after I left the school, you can go ahead and see my last video if you have any questions about that. After I left the school, I went to go work for a chiropractor, and he was so gung-ho on having me on board. I had the most experience out of anybody on board by far. Nobody else was an instructor, right? Like having me there, I could train the team, and he could market me to his patients in a way that would help them feel safe, feel cared for. I was just like, I was his dude, and he had to have me. And I really believed that he was going to take care of me as I was under his employment. He created a good offer. Really, he did. He was one of the only chiropractors at the time that I had been in contact with that was paying by the hour, not by the session. There's really no massage spa that you're going to go to and get a job as a massage therapist that's going to pay you hourly, unless it is you had no clients, so they have to pay you minimum wage for being there. This guy, we started off on the right foot. He's going to pay me a decent wage. I was going to have responsibilities that I knew I could help out with, that I knew I could have a positive impact with. So it was really strange when some red flags started to pop up. Now, the first red flag that popped up was he was late for payday, right? He didn't have everything put together. And, that's a small mistake. As a business owner, you get behind on some things, right? I'll just have to pay you a day later. Really not that big. But then some weird stuff started coming up, right? Like I remember one day, I'm standing on a step stool and I'm like in the ceiling, right? Trying to like figure out these cables because there's something wrong with the connection, and the chiropractor wanted me to look at it. So I get on the phone with our IT guy and I'm like telling him, I'm like, so the doctor here wants me to connect the HDMI cable to the Ethernet cable. And like I'm confused because I know technology pretty well. I've just never heard of connecting these two cables together because that's not how it works, right? And so the IT guys, I've already told him that you can't do that. So just put him on the phone. Like an IT guy told him you can't connect these two cables. It doesn't work like that. And he thought, no, that guy's just lying to me. Hey, Raph, you know technology pretty well. Go connect these cables together. Like, he was told an answer, and then just, I don't know, maybe he thinks too highly of himself or something, thought, no, the guy I hired to do this job must be a moron. So I'm going to pick some guy that I didn't hire to do that job to complete it. It seemed weird. And it was one of the first big clues as like something wasn't right. Eventually, I started to work my way up in the company. So I went from lead therapist, so I got to train all the other massage therapists, and I was training my way into something called report of findings. Now, the report of findings. If you are interested in chiropractic care and you go to a facility that has somebody who presents the report of findings to you, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but what I would tell you is this is normally where somebody's going to try to sell you on a lot of care, all right? Thousands of dollars worth of care while trying to incentivize you getting all this care. They're probably going to give you some discounts or something like that, right? This is probably going to pop up when you're dealing with a chiropractor who does the whole like, hey, I'll give you a free duffel bag if you come in for some x-rays, right? Like any chiropractor who's trying to gimmick their way to success are probably also going to involve themselves with report of findings type of tactics. Now, I'm not saying this is entirely a bad thing, right? Like if I went into somebody and I got x-rays done, I would want them to go over those x-rays with me so I know what kind of shape I'm in. But I noticed it was normally in these meetings that they would really try to drive home how important it was that they were getting this chiropractic care. But it was really like guilt trippy, right? They'd be like, so you have to agree that even if your child is sick, that you will come in and get your adjustment. Like even if the world is ending, you have to agree to come in and not miss an adjustment ever, right? And it's presented as like you have to make sure that the patient understands how important their health is. And like I get that, and I get that they have to be dedicated to the healing process to heal, right? There are plenty of us that don't do our physical therapist exercises that are prescribed to us, right? The doctor says, you got to do this. And then we don't do the exercises and wonder why we don't heal, right? Even as a massage therapist, I tell people, you should spend this many minutes a day having activity. And when they don't do that activity, they're like, well, it hurts. Yes, because you didn't do your part, right? And that can be kind of our fault by not telling you how important it is. On the other hand, though, there aren't many people who I find you, hire you, and don't understand how important healing is. So I'm saying all this because eventually, I'm getting into this report of findings position, and they want me to go to training. So they sent me to something called the Chiropractic Business Academy. Now, the Chiropractic Business Academy is an academy to train really the staff for chiropractors to better serve them, right? So it's really basic stuff. Like you go in and they go over scripts on how you should sell this care to somebody, on how you should pass this person off to the doctor. I mean, everything's scripted out. Everything is line by line. Everything has been tried and tested and proven true for them, right? Which to me is isn't all that weird. I mean, I get the weirdness in it. I've used scripts before. Even in my massage, there's a basic outline that I go off of, right? But I can change that. It's not set in stone. And really, how we were trained with this is you're not improvising at all. This is a script. You stick to the script. Like if you can stick to that, if you can remember that episode from The Office where Michael has a second job and his boss is telling him like, you stick to the script, you make the sale. If you don't, you move on. And it really, that's what it was like. Like that wasn't an exaggeration of how they wanted you to treat patients coming in, right? Like you stick to the script and you make sure that they buy. Like that's it. And really, this academy outlined basically everything. Like what colors should you use in your office? What's the feng shui? How should the furniture be laid out? What type of music should you play? Let's go ahead and move on to that little number real quick. So, oh my God. The guy I was working for only played one song in the lobby. It was Paradise by Coldplay. So if you can remember that Paradise is over and over and all day. The only song that would play in the lobby. Paradise by Coldplay. So here was the other thing, like when these people would get involved with these academies, it was incredibly expensive, like very, very expensive. So they oftentimes would take very literally, without flexibility, the advice from this group, right? Which, it wasn't terrible advice. Like, the colors went well together, the scripts worked okay. I always had this weird problem with how much they wanted to drive home that you needed this care. Like it was very salesperson-y, right? And I mean, of course, all this was directed towards how do you drive sales? How do you drive sales? How do you get more money? How do you get more people in? And it was always this bizarre conversation because I look at business very simply. And that might just be because of my industry. I know business can be very complicated for other industries. But if I'm having the conversation of why aren't my old clients coming back, it's probably because I'm not wowing them with my sessions. I've probably decreased in how I'm presenting my skill. Why can't I get new clients in? It's probably the same thing, man. You're not bringing your A game, right? You're not interacting with new clients, new potentials. Old clients aren't talking about you because you aren't bringing your skill set to the table. You've probably gotten soft. You probably have gotten too comfortable with where you're at. We all do it, right? So we go to this academy where I'm supposed to be selling thousands and thousands of dollars of chiropractic care. Like we're really supposed to be discouraging this whole just come in when you feel like you need to come in. Like, no, you need to come in 3-4 times a week. We're going to charge you double for each one, but you weren't going to know it. We're going to send you to your insurance company. You might be aware of it, but really we're trying to get them to just pay on it, right? Even if that means I'm going to do 7 minutes of massage and 7 minutes of stretching. So I'm going to charge you for 15 minutes of massage and 15 minutes of stretching because technically all you need is that 7 minutes to charge the code. So they want us to do that. And already at this point, I'm feeling a little strange about all of it, right? Because I'm an honest guy, right? That's just how it is. But I wanted to see if I could find out this information for myself, right? Instead of paying $20,000 to go to this academy to sit with a packet, by the way. This wasn't even like these grand lectures that they would give. Those were the extra ones, if you want to come to the after-hour stuff. What you were doing for 10 hours a day, basically, is just sitting with a packet and filling stuff out. So it already felt weird. It already felt so weird to be involved with this. And then I tried to find this information to, help my boss out, maybe save him a few bucks. And what I found was that all this information was actually taken from the Scientology website, right? How they would normally interact with newcomers to their religion. It was a word-for-word copy of how they would typically, obviously switching out chiropractic care for Scientology, right? But beyond that, it was basically word for word what you would see in their introduction lessons and how they would normally get people to join the religion. Now, I'm not going to make this video about Scientology. That's not what it's about. What it is about, though, is we were lied to, right? And I talk about this in my book. A lie has multiple insults to it. Not only am I trying to give you false information to make you do what I want, but I'm also assuming in the process of that, but that you are dumb enough and gullible enough to believe all of it. So it's not just that I want what I want and I don't care what you want. I think you're dumb enough to go along with it. And when I came to that, I brought it to my boss because it felt weird. It felt strange. It felt like we were trying to trick people into chiropractic care, not convince them that this is what they needed. We were trying to trick them into it. That we were trying to take all their money. I mean, think about this. You were just in an accident. There's already deductibles that you have to pay. There's already all this money that you have to pay. You're in pain. And then instead of being like, okay, yeah, just come in weekly and pay per session, they're like, no, right now you should drop $4,000. You know what? I like you. We'll make it $3,000. You should drop $3,000 right now on something that you're not entirely sure if it's going to help you or not. Like that all felt weird enough. And so I tell my boss, like, hey, I think we're being duped here. Like, I think we're being tricked into something. I don't think we should be involving ourselves with this company. I really, really don't. And his response was, absolutely, you're totally right. I'll take care of it. This next staff meeting that we had together, he was going to announce that I had this promotion, that I was going to be moving into this report of findings position, even though I felt it was weird. If I could be in it, if I could be in the heat of it all, if I could be on the front lines, so to speak, then maybe I could make the difference that I wanted to. Like, maybe it didn't have to be so creepy and weird, right? Like, maybe we could just treat people like people and help them. So we're getting ready for the staff meeting. He's going to announce a new person. We get to that part. He's building up to it, building all the suspense. And it's somebody else, right? Like, he didn't even tell me before the meeting that it wasn't going to be me. He told me during the meeting as he told everybody else. Like, what a d***head. I just... But this is the same guy. Again, like... This is the same guy who would cheat you on your insurance codes, who is going to play one song in the lobby, who's going to try to connect HDMI cables to Ethernet cables, even though you told him that you can't do that. This is the same guy. So I used to volunteer my time. Linda and I both did. We used to volunteer our time working on veterans for free. And he fired us over that. Or I should say he came close to firing us. I had to give my case to him as he was driving to Mexico for a vacation. Yeah, this guy, he didn't even fire me to my face. He found out that we were volunteering our time, called his wife, and she fired us. But said, no, maybe you can plead your case with him. So I had to tell him that this is all volunteer work. This isn't against our competition clause. I don't understand where this is coming from. And really, I think he let me have my job just because he didn't want to deal with the publicity of this guy fired somebody for helping out veterans. I think that's what it really came down to, because he was going to. Because you have to understand that chiropractors that involve themselves with these business academies that have to be taught how to be good business people, they have to be taught how to care about people, but only enough to get their money. You have to understand that these same people, and I've heard this advice, I've heard this at these conferences, you should treat your massage therapist with as little respect as possible. The smallest rooms, the smallest supplies, the dingiest supplies, you should spend the least amount that you can on them. Because you want high turnover. Because all these chiropractors that have to be taught how to be good business people instead of good chiropractors. All these people have this incredible insecurity about themselves that you're just going to walk away with all their clients. As a massage therapist, I'm going to walk away with all their chiropractic clients, patients. Like, let that sink in for a second. That's how insecure they are. They think everything that they've worked for is going to be undermined by somebody who does the prep work for them before they actually do their adjustments. They're going to pay you as little as possible. You're going to have the smallest amount of room to work as possible. They're not going to get a sheet service. You're going to be doing the laundry. And this guy, along with other chiropractors, but this definitely happened with this guy, they're going to try every loophole that they can. Every loophole. So at one point, they tried to make all the massage therapists contractors, except for me, because I was a manager. So I would have to stay on employment versus contract. And really the only reason that he made me an employee was because he knew for a fact that, I'd been volunteering my time with other people. So he wanted to still keep less control of, the competition clause in our contract. Why he wanted to make everybody contractors instead of employees was so he didn't have to pay their taxes, right? Like that's the advantage of having contractors. You don't have to guarantee them hours, and you don't have to pay their you don't have to match their taxes on their W-2s, right? But what he didn't think about was you can't have a competition clause with contractors. You can't have them come in at a certain time. You can't make them stay for team meetings. You can't require them to wear a uniform. So for him, and you can't make half of your employees contractors and the other half employees. It doesn't work like that, right? But these people are going to try every loophole possible to keep in control of you. I have a serious problem with that. And really why I don't think I'll ever work for a chiropractor again, even if they're amazing, even if they're so cool. Please excuse Mr. Tango over here. Apparently he's hungry in the middle of our video. We've been going for a while now. But why I'm never going to work for somebody again is because I want control over myself. I don't want control over them. No, what this really comes down to is there were so many times I wanted to smack that chiropractor in the face. I mean, when I quit, I was like inventing swear words at him. I was insulting just every part. He broke me in a way where the nice guy you see here was no more. I was out for blood, and it took everything to not actually like put hands on this guy. Because by the time by the time I quit, he had really worked himself into the worst side of me. Like I just hated this guy. I can't remember where I was going with that point. But when you do have disagreements with somebody, and they have this control over you, you're forced to submit. You are forced to play nice with them. There'd be so many times with this guy where he'd be like, "Hey, you have a minute to talk?" And I'd literally say, "No, I do not have a minute to talk. I have to get my client right now in the lobby." Okay, and he would talk for 10 minutes, right? Like the self-centeredness of a person like this, they will never take care of you. They will never care about you. You have to care about you. So even if you're working for somebody, even if you're working for even if you know a really good chiropractor that you want to do business with, set up some kind of partnership or something. Really, I do not recommend that you work under their employment. I recommend that you work with them. I work with Jerome. Dr. Jerome, he's amazing. I love that guy. I send plenty of people to him. I send plenty of people to Dr. Orion Salberg. These guys are top-notch in what they do. I mean, Jerome offered me a job, and I respectfully, very respectfully, I love you, Jerome, declined because I want control over what I do. I don't want to go into your office. I have an office. If I'm going to see your patients, I'll go to their home. I'll do what I do and what I'm comfortable with. And I don't need somebody managing me. I can manage me. I'm a big boy. I'm never going to give up control of how I operate. Because here's the big thing, man. When someone's going to operate unethically, your name's on that if you're working for them, right? I remember there's a guy who came in, Canadian guy. He had actually worked for a major insurance company up in Canada. And I'm not sure how insurance works up there, by the way. But he was really high up in that company, and he came down here as plenty of Canadians do, right? And I love when they come down because they'll ask you for your massage number because they get like cool discounts on it with their insurance. I think it's so cool. But he had come down, and he came in one day, and he's pointing at me, and he's asking, "Why are you like shoving all these codes on? Like, why are you charging me for all this extra stuff?" And I had to explain to him, well, the doctor, he's the one who wants us to charge you for a massage therapy code and for a stretching code, right? Because that's what made him more money. But it's not, he didn't come in yelling at the doctor. No, he came in yelling at me. And it was only because this guy was really level-headed, really understanding, that he went and then had a conversation with the chiropractor versus absolutely losing his cool. If I was that guy, I probably would have filed a lawsuit. Honestly, I would have. Because like he said, even though he's retired, he has a reputation to consider. He has insurance to consider. Like, you can't be messing around with stuff like that. So for me, I know that I operate ethically. I operate with my client, making sure that they're going to be okay and get the most out of the session. Heck, there's sometimes I really don't want to either. I know how bad that sounds. I know how bad it sounds to be like, you don't want to give 100%. Man, there are some days that I am tired. There are some days that I don't want to do those extra stretches, those extra strokes. I don't want to stop after the session and give you that extra homework and advice and that skill set to make sure that you can take care of yourself. But I do it. I do it every time because I love my clients. I love what I do. And I have the power and the control to make sure it happens. This video's gone on way too long, and we haven't even discussed all the weird and crappy parts that I had to experience while working for a chiropractor. So if you'd like to, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to grab my book. It talks about all this stuff in it. And please, 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 stay tuned for the next video. I'll go ahead and see you there. Thank you so much, everybody. And of course, remember to be safe and stay safe. Be awesome and stay awesome. I love you so much, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time.